Hello and welcome to this rather special Pro Detailer podcast. Is this a podcast or are only two of us here? Is it a podcast or a bicast or no? That's a type of leather, isn't it?
I think it's a type of stereo, isn't it?
Type of stereo? No, maybe. Well, anyway, long and the short of it is just myself, Bert Ewell, and Mr. Ian of Seeley.
Hello.
And we are currently what I best describe as in limbo. Because we have just stuck many labels onto many envelopes, and we are sat in the PDHQ of all places, waiting for a lorry to come with pallets and pallets of magazines, which we're then going to slip into the envelopes, and then we're going to try and get them to a Royal Mail depot without breaking the rear springs, which hasn't always been successful. We did it last time in the Fozzie, which has ever since had what we call in the Subaru community a saggy bottom.
A normal bottom.
No, it's a saggy bottom. We blew the self-leveling with it. But then we did put, I think it was 800 kilos we worked it out at, so that was probably a bit much for it.
I like to think of us currently in what they call the sweaty afterglow of the magazine.
Sweaty afterglow.
Slight hesitation to do it again, but you're going to end up in the same boat 6 months down the line. If that, because bear in mind it's August now. 4 months down the line.
Yes.
Yeah. Luckily, we've already got loads of stuff to do.
Yeah, that is true. We thought we would just have a little natter, more not about the magazine per se, because we're hoping to do some more sort of in-depth, ready through sort of interviewy types podcast. But this is more of a kind of a brain dump, but a kind of a retrospect, talking about our experience of putting together this particular magazine. Because
it's like our own personal therapy session. Talk about the experiences and
get it out.
What went wrong?
Yeah, yeah. Well, reference this magazine. I think we ought to tie it into that magazine.
Oh yeah, we haven't got all day.
Don't have to incriminate myself again. Yes. So what I was going to do, Ian, is ask you what article you found, not push you out of your comfort zone, but doing something a little different from what you've done before.
Different in what sort of?
Well,
design-wise?
I was thinking more communicating with people at the far side of the world.
Communicating with people. That
for a start is a challenge.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the articles we have done was a PPF removal article, but not an article of how to. It's a how we did kind of thing.
Yeah, it's an account
based on a story. Quite a few of you have probably already seen the outline of, because I picked up for the first time on social media a few months back, and that's through a company in Malaysia called Panda Auto Works, Meng and Lee over there, and I got in touch with them because, frankly, this Ferrari looked absolutely stunning afterwards, and an absolute nightmare before. Had a 12-year-old PPF on it, and their removal process, obviously just one aspect of the full restoration that they did, including sending bits off for paint and sort of wet sanding carbon fibre back for badge removal, making this absolutely perfect for a well-off gentleman's collection over there. But one of the main things was removing this 12-year-old PPF from what's already quite a delicate surface.
Yeah, and it wasn't a high mileage car. It was it was purely age. And bear in mind, out in Malaysia, they do get something called sun.
Hot and humid out there, so it's either hot and wet or just hot.
Yeah.
Those are the two options. It's very binary.
And they were properly involved with it. And even one thing I noticed out of your comfort zone is you wrote an introduction about Ferraris. You wrote almost a car article. I mean, I had to make some corrections on it, but
no, I had to care that I actually gave a crap about Ferraris for a minute there. God,
careful, we might have some Italian listeners. But yes, no,
Si va bene. That's my Italian.
I don't even know what that is.
That's good.
That's good. Okay. So that was an interesting article. Speaking from my own point of view, one article that was kind of fun for me. We've always done big showcase articles. Well, no, recently in the last 3-4 issues, we've done big showcases. So last time we bought a Renault 5, which we were going to sell, but haven't yet sold it.
Well, we haven't sold it because the showcase car from issue 11 decided to shit its timing chain.
Yes, that would be the Audi A5.
So yeah, that was my car until I finally managed to pull my finger out, because obviously that happened when we were just entering the throes of magazine. I had very little time to go and search for a car that I hadn't even thought about buying.
Nothing else.
I don't know about you. When I think about buying a new car, I like to put at least 3 months thought into it, research them, and then completely change my mind at the last minute and go for something a bit more random.
Oh no, I don't actually. Very rarely have I thought I need to buy a car, but quite often I've drunk cider and gone on
Everybody
eBay
else
and
thinks you
bought
need to
a car.
buy a car, but you're adamant. You're adamant. You're sticking with what you've got.
No, the powers that be have said I'm not allowed any more cars.
You're like a guy playing blackjack who's stuck on 5. You're like, no, I'm going to stick. I don't want to risk it. There is no chance you can lose by changing. No, I'm going to stick.
I have you know that all my cars have gone up dramatically in value since all this thing. But you're absolutely right about how dramatically as a percentage in gross figures, it's basically 50 quid. But the other thing is how we do put our lives on hold for the magazine. I mean, I delayed when we were I went down to see Kelly for one of the articles, Kelly Harris in Kent, and I was due to have my vaccination. Then I got the text the day before, and I was like, nope, I've got to put it off. And the next available one was like 2 weeks later. I'm paying the price now because I want to go off on holiday, but I can't until September because everything's been put back. And I think there's quite a lot of other things that we put one side. I know my partner sort of says that I'm mental, and particularly during the magazine time. And she gives me certain allowances.
It is a state of mind you have to enter.
Yeah.
Especially because it's a small team doing it. You know,
I'm seeing all of it.
They're very local. So yeah, you know, it's you're trying to balance finding interesting content, going and filming the interesting content, or shooting it, or discussing it with people around the world. Then you've got to find a way to translate that over into print, which isn't as easy as perhaps putting it onto a pre-formatted website where everything goes in. It looks roughly the same: text, picture, funny adverts at the bottom for.
Yeah, and it's also that submerging. You're, I think, a bit better than I am, which is, for me, I sit in the same offices every day when I'm running the PVD Association, or I'm just doing normal kind of general work stuff. And you're midway through writing an article on a stream of consciousness, and the phone goes off, and it's either somebody trying to sell you something, or something very daft, and then you completely lose your focus, or an email comes through you've got to get back to. And yeah, I let my health insurance lapse by about 5 days because I completely cocked up on it.
Actually, I don't ever give anyone my mobile number, so nobody phones me.
No, well, you've given me 3 mobile numbers, and rarely do any of them work.
I would say they never work.
Well, one of them cost me an awful lot of money to leave a message. It was heavy breathing, and that wasn't the message. But anyway, I unfortunately am the kind of the front person for quite a few things, so I get quite a lot of stuff. And sometimes I just pretend not to exist anymore. But when you're as fat and hairy as me, it's quite difficult to sort of fade into the distance.
I'm trying to see if we've got a violin button on here, but I don't think we do, so it's just that's
okay, I mean,
as good as I can do.
Yeah, twist.
And we did check beforehand that we didn't still have the mating call of the moose on the buttons from when Cav was on, because I realised I don't think we've actually changed them since then.
Yeah,
they're on a different pack.
It's been returned back to your collection.
Yes, standard.
I had somebody who I sent a copy. Who was it? It was something with Mag in the early days, and I sent them a copy of the article just for them to check over, and they weren't very technical, and they said, "Oh, I've read it. Thank you very much. Can I give it back to you?" As if the PDF or whatever I'd sent them was a kind of a singular copy that you can kind of pass like an object.
Well, you should always recycle PDFs because save the pixels.
So yeah, and anyway, going back to the showcase. So this time I actually got to do a showcase of one of my cars, which everybody has been trying to avoid for a long time. But this is a car that I owned more or less from you and then bought back fairly recently. And the outside is beyond saving. The inside, however, had lots of stuff. Now Ian is a bit of he's good with leather. Less good in leather, and so
reviews say, frankly.
Yeah, so we did a kind of a showcase purely on the interior of that car, and it was bizarre because the owner before me was obviously a golfist. We think he's quite a chronologically enhanced golfist, so we kept on finding golf tees. And then we found various other slightly gooey things. We found evidence of mouse infestation and other sort of niceties. And the thing is, every time we found something remotely dodgy, I was just like, oh, that must be one of the previous owners. At the same time as getting vaguely sort of reminiscent of a What's-It that I'd left down the driver's seat back in 2009. So yeah, that was quite a fun one to do, and I was trying to write an article without getting emotional. So, and I get emotional about cars, specifically my cars are the super.
I was about to say it's cars, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's the depth of my emotion. In fact, I think that was the grand.
Occasionally animals, but
only
certain animals.
Yeah, no, in films when animals snuff it. I've been known to get instantaneous hay fever. Obviously, I haven't cried since 1997 because I'm a grown-up, but the occasional hay fever animals, whereas I can watch films about genocides and I'm just sitting there going, yep. No, that's
when you start laughing, it's a little bit disconcerting.
No, I try not to do that after that particular cinema.
So we're going to go into what the article basically contains about everything about the magazine in our next one. But the key thing about the showcase this time is you used InDesign and actually designed something on it.
I did. So,
just to catch people up, everyone who has issues 1 through 8 will notice a marked difference between the format, the layout, the design between 8 and 9 onwards. Because in issue 8 and before, we were using Microsoft Word
and
to put everything together, and Paint.
I love Paint.
And chisels.
I still use Paint.
We occasionally used animal blood.
I won't even use Paint 3D. And I have, there was a big change last time as I moved from Word 2003 to Word 365. That was a big move. And then this time I made a big move and did a whole, I think it's a 15 or 16 page article in InDesign, which, weirdly, we're both computer geeks in our past, but I was probably more computer geeky in my background. Mm-hmm. And I found that when I passed about 28, I could no longer learn anything. In the olden days, I could pick up software. Hell, one of my jobs was actually writing instructions for really quite anal software. So, to write the instruction manuals that nobody ever reads. And now, I'm very slow going. But I can't
remember what it was the other day. I had to write something HTML, and I had to really think for how do I close this off? What was it? Ahref what?
Yeah, it's just exactly that. But sit there and it does make me cry somewhat because we used to have kind of skills, and when we were young,
I think the problem is is it's very easy for you to translate to using Word or Excel because they're all Microsoft umbrella and they all use the same hotkeys and the same vague layout and the same style. Now you've moved over and you've started using more Adobe, so you're using Photoshop a lot. So not Photoshop, Lightroom.
Well, I've been using Lightroom for years, but
that's kind of that's a step away from
hardcore,
what I'd call the core Adobe Creative Suite. So your Premiere Pro, your InDesign and Illustrator and Photoshop. After Effects to a certain extent as well, but they all use very similar hotkeys, and they all link across bridges, and it's very instinctive to know where things are.
If you're an Adobe person,
and since issue 9, I've been all on Adobe. I've done a hell of a lot of courses on InDesign and Illustrator, and I'm playing about with a lot more, having a lot more fun with it. But you've never really had the time, if you like, with all your other jobs and responsibilities with the Mag to
learn software. I did do a basic intro course from a lovely New Zealand chap who I thought was brilliant. Dan, that was it.
Brilliant, isn't he?
I like Dan. It's all available online. But yeah, for me, Adobe has always been for square spectacled marketing people who use Apple Macs and have non-conventional sexual positions.
My slightly square spectacles.
So I've always shied away. I've always presumed that Macs were for people who sat in coffee shops pretending they were writing a book, and for PC people were actually who made the world go round. It's kind of in the old days of BlackBerry and iPhones. BlackBerry, US government, anyone in the government, and people who actually got stuff done. iPhones were for girls to take pictures of themselves.
See, PC guys actually make the world go square and then spend 30 years beating the world into thinking that's what we wanted the whole time.
Yeah, there is an element of that. I do remember there was a big shortage of iPhones at one point because there was a PC that actually ran the construction line for iPhones, and the PC cocked up and the iPhone stopped coming.
It was just a thunk. Critical error.
But anyway, we're in danger of going down a rabbit hole of reminiscing about technology in the 90s, which is a bad place to go. In terms of other articles, Ian, there was one on short supply you did, which was really interesting. It's slightly involved with it.
Yeah, that was weird. When you're used to writing articles for the magazine all the time, just sort of trying to put things, you get strange little queries in your head, and sometimes the best way to answer those, why is this happening, is to actually go out and just write an article on it. And that's something I did back in February, March time. Actually.
Oh, that one on genital warts?
Yes, that one. And turns out they were benign and the cream worked. But that then led me on, through gloves, to trying to work out why a box of nitrile gloves that were £7 a year ago were now approximately £25,000 and a small kidney to own.
Yeah, well, you went onto my shop,
Exactly. But so that led me down the route of all of the global shortages that we're having, because at the time it hadn't really come to the fore. I mean, now we can see in quite clearly that there's a lot of raw material shortages where everywhere that's shut down has basically used up their backlog stock, and everything they're making, they're almost making to order, and it's tough to keep up pace with sudden surges in demand. We have, I think I say in the article, we have the problem ourselves at Real Work with with some building stuff we're having done because the brickwork and steel and everything isn't available.
Well, also we've had a couple of things. That little boat got stuck in that little river.
Yeah.
This time we
tried to drift down the Suez Canal.
Yeah, we didn't go for war this time, which was nice, because last time things started getting a bit clogged up there, we did decide to have a war. It was probably before your time.
Trying to play an apocalypse bingo.
Yeah, that was a bit of a giggle. The other thing I noticed, because when you did it, it's like, we need to get some quotes from manufacturers, and you put that on my plate. So I went off and talked to some manufacturers and resellers, supply chain folk, and we had so G-Technic got back to us, and it was kind of corporate. It was like, nope, we prepared for this, we're fine.
Yes.
And everybody else was perhaps
sort of thing you say when you have shareholders.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a politician was talking about it. But then the other ones were perhaps a little more candid, and
some angry to a certain
really
extent.
angry.
Frustration, I think, is quite a good way of describing it, because they are desperately trying to get these goods over, and they've got customers in one ear shouting at them they can't get stuff, and then they've got suppliers in the other ear saying, meh, whatever.
Yeah, and
someone else.
And the impact supply-demand effect on prices. And we would talk to Valet Pro and to Slims and various others. And it's it didn't go so well, and they were talking about it, about how it had really impacted them, it was interesting. They were saying, right, I've rewritten this 4 times because it came across too angry before, and I used a lot of swear words.
we had people making up words especially for the article.
Yes, yeah. So it was a proper interesting one, and
it's a really good article. It's good to get the other
if you
side
say so yourself.
It's in the comments that we got through, because I say most of them were very candid and quite open about what the situation's like. Flex have had to look at different ways of getting chips and everything like that supplied over to them, because there's a worldwide shortage of chips, but they need that little chip to run their cordless battery. So
as in silicon chips, obviously, not as in soggy.
Fish hand. Soggy chips.
Yeah.
Is that a boarding school thing?
No, soggy biscuit, that was a different one. You don't want to play that game, trust me.
Leaky roof, yeah.
We had Fight Club, that was more worse. So we had that, and then we've got a couple of sort of celebrity articles, if you like. And
people who are more interesting than us by that. By that you mean?
Well, you've got to be careful.
It's a large population, but the ones that would actually talk to us as well.
Yes, so we'll get back to the emails. And first of which was Kelly Harris, who obviously we've featured before, we've done some videos with, and we've been trying to get him to do a highly technical, really technical article on paint, and a kind of a series of them. And that finally came to fruition. He is an exceptionally busy man with about 1 million tasks being sort of handed down from America to him. But he managed to bully some time out of his schedule to do it, and it's a monster article. It's about 6,000 words, or
6,500 words.
6,500 words. Yeah, and he's talking about colour matching in paint this time, but we're going to do more, and it's in proper detail and lots of fascinating stuff. And we're going right back to how the paint is actually sprayed, as well as tints and lacquers, and
this is really important knowledge, I think, for Deezer. It isn't just we could go into super strange detail from a body shop point of view, because as interesting as body shop work is, it's frankly, it's not our niche.
It's not our area, like cross stitch.
Exactly, but there's a lot of crossover knowledge that comes to the fore. So, why when you're colour matching, you may have different colours between 2 different panels on a car. Mm-hmm. Why it's so different? Why spotting these things early before you start correcting can actually save you a lot of hassle down the line when you're detailing what the best colour for coverage is, everything like that. And he goes to some fantastic detail. He's some examples through his old green Lamborghini. It's now gone.
Yeah. I'm still encouraging him to get a Subaru. I've offered to lend him TJ to have a play with paint-wise, and I'm just hoping that'll get him onto proper cars, because he's got a McLaren at the moment, which is just going to break down.
Yes. Catch fire.
Yeah, might catch fire. My new Lamborghini's quite good at catching fire. They all burn with enough petrol.
Yeah, but Lamborghinis do it with a lot more flair.
Yeah, that's true.
Clunk to the side of the road and then go. Disappointing.
So we got that, and then the other big one is Jim White.
Yes.
And you don't know Jim White, do you?
No, we briefly met at Waxstock a couple of years ago when you had him on stage.
I had him on stage, yes.
You had him on the stage show.
I have to admit, I hadn't met Jim at that point.
I don't think you need to throw a bucket of water over him at the end, though. That was uncalled for.
Yeah, no, jealousy is a bitch. But no, it was remarkable because I've been all day sort of on and off the stage introducing people and interviewing people and stuff like that. And normally at Waxtalk, you get kind of maybe 4 or 5 people who will sit and stay, and then others are passes through who'll pause either for a sit down or because they're interested in what they're watching. With Jim,
or they got sandwiches or something like
exactly. And Jim actually brought a huge crowd, and what I thought was going to be a straightforward sort of Q&A session between me and him, I started throwing some questions out to the audience, and I thought at one moment, I mean, there was one bloke, big bloke, who I actually know his name, but I'm probably not going to use it, he unbuttoned, I shit you not, he had wearing like a rugby shirt, and he just unbuttoned 2 buttons while looking at Jim dead in the face. Jim wasn't actually watching, and then he put his hand up for a question, and I thought, right, this is either going to go very well or very badly, so I made a beeline for this chap. I thought he was going to do something like sign my titty or something like that.
Yours?
No, his, not mine. Jesus Christ, nobody's allowed to touch that. Thankfully nothing dramatic happened. He asked a question about why he was so successful, but it was there was a real following for Jim, and
there was actually a queue of people at the end lining up for Jim's autograph.
Yeah.
And that's never happened to Dom Colbeck.
Ah, well, no, it's not.
Strangely, because I like Dom's autograph.
I could use it to sign the checkbook that I've nicked. And so there's that. So on the one hand, you've got this kind of this celebrity with lots of followers and a huge YouTube channel, but I think more importantly was that this was an interview where we got really deep into where he started, how it all began, and I think the most beneficial, or the best bit of it, is we've got 3 pages of guides, one on guide to building a YouTube channel, one to building a detailing business, and another on something else. 3 like kind of 5-step guides, do's and don'ts sort of things, and they are, really useful for anyone at any point in business, I think. And then the rest of it was kind of his story, but it's delivered in such a humble way, and a kind of humble, and I hate to use the same word twice in one podcast, but candid way, that I kind of really appreciated it, and the fact that we had, he gave us the time of day, which is cool. So that's a really interesting article, and we had to do it remotely, so we're relying on kind of third-party photos and stuff like that. That was
the interesting, because you'll notice on the article there's a lot of
SFX.
Slightly artified photos, and that's not because we took rubbish photos. We just didn't take any photos at all, so we had to kind of work with what we had in terms of some photos Jim kindly supplied. Some of them were screen grabs, some of them we got a lot of childhood photos from him, which is not childhood, sort of his early years car care kind of.
Well, it's impossible to get good screen grabs off OnlyFans as well.
Right. Is that where you get your... let's just pause on that a second, shall we?
So you join us back again after Ian decided to cut the recording at a very awkward moment. Just a little FYI, we are literally waiting for the lorry to arrive. So if things suddenly get cut short quickly, it's because we've run out to wave down a lorry that's probably got lost in deepest, darkest Wiltshire.
Or if you're still here in 2 hours, we're still waiting. So this will stretch out.
What other articles? I think there was an article.
We got some quite cool little bits of kit for this one as well, didn't we?
What hardware-y things?
Yeah, we got the infrared camera, which we bought, and then we couldn't remember why we bought it. So
yes.
We made reasons to have bought it.
Well, you say that,
but quite useful reasons.
It was quite useful. The FLIR system that you got. Now, you started a while ago, like 2 or 3 issues ago, a Steamer article, which has never quite made the grade. So once we're kind of got a majority of articles in there, we do some cutting. We choose what goes in, what can be bunged to the next one, what needs more work. And I mean, this one, I think we've got the best part of 10, 15 pages worth of articles to go straight into the next one, because otherwise we're going to have a 200-page magazine. FYI, this one is 164 pages, biggest that we've done by quite a considerable margin. Mm-hmm. But anyway,
it's nearly double the length of all of our old issues.
Well, actually,
it used to be 100. It used to be 100 pages. It was triple
the first one. Yeah, first one was 52 pages. Mm-hmm. So that's quite serious.
Maybe we should start just doing 52-page ones 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah, then it would never stop. Then at least here we have a week of convincing ourselves that we've got like a life outside of magazine.
I've never convinced myself that.
Oh, okay. Well, I do that. But I do that with cider mostly. So Steamer.
Flyer. Oh, no, yeah, that's right. The Steamer article. Yeah, we started the Steamer article. That first came about with another one of those articles that you just start writing and it's almost a bit of a rant. It was when the first lockdown was just coming to a close and people were still trying to sanitize cars with a waft of a steamer.
Yes, and we were seeing them putting them into the vents and then seeing the steam come out of other vents and declaring,
which looks really cool.
It looks cool, but all you're doing is adding moisture to a darkened space where fungus can grow.
Nice and warm and wet in there. That's what you need to kill back. Wait a minute. That's how that started, and it was kind of there's only so much you can talk about in a rant, so we decided to actually have a look and see what steamers there are out there, because steamers are really useful, obviously, in detailing.
And do their stats. And we were trying to compare, we start with what I describe as a domestic steamer, right the way through to a kind of light-duty commercial steamer. We also featured some seriously heavy-duty industrial steamers, but one of particular interest was courtesy of Kevin up at Premier Car Care.
Well, no, because we didn't actually... He's been trying to get that for 3 or 4 years now, right today. He's finally got that, and he managed to get that about 2 weeks after we'd finished the steamer article and couldn't get any stats or details into it in time. So that is in new products, but it's not in the steamer article.
Is it not? Because I referred to how in new products, I referred to how it was being featured in the steamer article.
Did you even read the article, man?
Well, I probably did.
It was chock-a-block in there, because we were featuring 2 of each genre, as it were. So I think we actually had 3 of the semi-professional ones. We had
a van has just arrived.
Oh, a van has arrived.
We
may stop. Is it the van?
I think it is the van. Not many back into my driveway.
Okay, we will stop and see what goes on. 35 minutes later.
And we're back. We have just unloaded, quite literally, 100 boxes, each weighing over 20 kilos from a van.
That sweaty glow I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
This is a proper sweaty glow.
We've got the magazine. It's always a heart and mouth moment when we first get a hard copy, because we sit there thinking, crap, where have we cocked up? What have we missed out? What have we put in that we shouldn't have done? What made the edit, etc., etc. We are professionals.
I just heard you say hard in mouth.
And the phone's just gone as well, which is fun. But we're going to ignore that for now. And in the meantime, we are just about going to wrap up here, because we have got to start licking and sticking many, many envelopes.
Yes. How many have we got to get? Oh, I can't. I was counting how many we've got to get out today.
Yeah, it's over 1,000.
Yeah, subscribers are going out first, obviously. Just that's what we said.
Yeah.
All the pre-orders, everything like that.
And everyone who's ordered for first-class postage as well will go.
Yes, they will all definitely going to go out today. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't.
No, not unless we manage to break 2 cars.
And we will do our very best to get absolutely every single issue out, but there are only so many paper cuts one can take in an afternoon.
Yes, well, it's the blood loss. So anyway, looking forward, we will be doing a little walkthrough video of the magazine fairly soon, possibly today if we're still going. If not, it'll be first thing tomorrow. We will also be doing lots of interesting podcasts. We've actually booked up our diary yesterday for beginning of September. We have got
some cracking people coming.
Some serious heavy hitters in the industry, and people you wouldn't expect as well. People who perhaps are known only by reputation. So keep your ears and eyes open for those. In the meantime, your magazines will start landing in the next couple of days. I really, really hope that you enjoy them. It
does look awesome in the flesh. We have to say so ourselves. That really does look fantastic.
It's a hefty piece of kit now. And actually we're 8 grams over our postage threshold, which means that it costs an extra 40-something p to send out. So next time we're going to aim for 150 pages and call it a day there.
Yes. How much do the envelopes weigh?
20 grams.
Oh, we can just stick a label on the magazine and post that.
But then everyone would get nicked by postmen, because obviously all postmen are car people. But anyway, we will leave you there. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back coming in your ears soon.
Goodbye.